Hi, and welcome to the Intuitively Wild podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Levine. Living intuitively wild is about coming back home to ourselves. Here, we talk about how to live connected to ourselves, others, and nature, and make a commitment to radical authenticity, vulnerability, and acceptance. On this podcast, we delve into a wide range of topics that span the human experience. We peel back the layers and talk about the things that are often not talked about. This is a space for us all to walk and wander this path of life together. Let's dig into our roots and go deep. Laura, welcome to the podcast. So excited and grateful to have you here.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm very much looking forward to talk to you.
Let's get into the first question that we always start off with, which is, what is something you wish people knew about you that you don't think many do?
That it sometimes needs an experiment
Mm.
to follow your journey and your path, and that it is okay to not always follow the path your mind thinks is settled for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I also actually want to empower people to let go of what the mind thinks, if whether you should go left and right, and that sometimes it takes great bravery to open your heart and let your heart lead. And that was actually not something natural to me, even though when you look at my biography, you might think it's a natural expansion or stumbling from one thing to another.
Wow, that's so powerful. And that's something that I've really had to embrace in my life as well. So you say it didn't come naturally to you. So how did you build that courage and build that ability to push aside what your mind was telling you and follow your intuition?
I feel like my body was a great help of that, because my body gave me multiple stops when I didn't listen to my heart and followed the mind's path. And a body can scream really loud and a body can knock you out. And that happened to me very often in the years that I'm around on this earth. And it also sometimes takes the universe to shuffle the cards and give you that Wheel of Fortune moment, deliver a pandemic, that makes you question things and reframe your belief systems. So I can wholeheartedly say that I wasn't this brave person in saying, okay, I'm going to embark on a new route. There always was a bit of grief attached and a stubbornness, because also in Germany, it's a very linear path that you follow. You go to school, then you receive your education, you might be studying, and then you become a job that you stay with until you retire and eventually die. And culture-wise, this is very, very stiff. And it's not okay yet that we humans are allowed to experiment and to test the waters, test our boundaries, and stop following the mind and listening to the heart. And I feel like in this current moment that we're in, with all the great shifts and all the uncertainty, something that I can now say is that it really paid out to follow the heart's path. And my body can agree with that. I feel safer, I feel healthier now.
I'm curious, do you know about human design?
Yes,
And
yes.
so I looked up your human design and your 3-5 profile.
Yes.
I'm not sure how much you know about that, but the 3, is all about experimenting. That is how you learn what is right for you. That's how you find your alignment. So it is so fitting. That feels like such a core part of your path.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. And I needed other people to help me breaking this belief system of the linear world or the linear path that I thought I shall be following, and that actually was aligned with big dreams of mine, dreams I didn't want to let go of. And it was really, really helpful to encounter people that were educated coming from other fields, like you mentioned, human design or astrology, that could empower this path. And because I was so easily in thinking this is failure if I cannot finish or don't want to finish something until I retire, or I learn something new and then I go into expansion and I have a new facet that comes into visibility and that excites me and that can be of service.
Yeah, I've had that experience a lot in my life too, of changing my mind about something, not wanting to finish something or shifting things quickly. And it can be really, really challenging in a world that tells us, no, just follow the
Yeah,
right path, take
yeah,
the step that makes sense and the path that everyone else is taking. And it is really scary to go your own way and
yeah.
do your own thing.
Totally, totally. Also, again, we shall be reminding ourselves of the recent zeitgeist that we're in with all those shifts and that we're embarking on this into this new era. And no one actually knows what it feels like. And all that we know is that the blueprints don't work anymore, not in favor of our health, of our collective well-being, in terms of justice. And I think we are all called in experimenting and embracing change and giving the heart space, room, and the awareness that it's okay to follow this path. Maybe it's the first time in your life that you want to do this consciously. I feel like right now it's a good moment to do so.
Absolutely, because like you said, the old way isn't working anymore. And just
Yeah,
because something is the status quo or something is normal doesn't mean it's okay or doesn't mean it's
yeah,
supportive of
yeah.
who we are and what we need. And we need to break outside of the limited thinking that we've placed on ourselves. And that's why it is so important to get out of your mind and get into your body and get into your heart and really listen to these deeper layers that are talking to us.
Totally, totally. What you're saying, I think that's also so important because for a very long time it wasn't clear that there are different instances, maybe I want to call them, or energies that I can consult
Mm,
to receive guidance, information. And that was something that I learned when I started learning at the Mediumship Academy, that I can consult each morning and actually do my mind, my heart, my womb space, my body, and my spirit guides, what is their advice for today or what should I put on my to-do list. I wasn't aware of this. And of course, I always followed the mind. And when there were hard topics, I was just like, hard? I don't know if that sounds a little bit too romantic for my German side, but I'm also half Sicilian. So romance and emotions, I actually can do that very well. But that was new knowledge that I can consult way more than just my stupid brain.
mm. So, where did your path start? Where did you start to connect to your intuition, your mediumship, these psychic gifts? How did this unfold for you?
I grew up in a very, very small village in the south of Germany, surrounded by the woods, by the forest.
Mm.
And I had a lot of time to be outside in nature and just wandering around. And I sensed that my ability to connect with the unseen is present and great. And it was so normal to me, so natural. But when we grow up, most of us tend to neglect this truth and reality. And the same happened to me out of many reasons. Also, safety and not wanting to be seen crazy. I guess we all know these stories. So it took a lot of time until I could really reconnect with this gift and embrace it. And my gateway to the intangible was my voice and singing, writing music, and sharing these frequencies and these sounds with an audience. But little did I know that this was actually my way of channeling, that it always had been. I needed a depression, that I would look into spirituality from a healing aspect. And I did my very own, very private researches, experiences with the intention to heal myself and finding remedy, as I couldn't find remedy in the traditional system through a doctor or so. And en route to doing so, my senses became clearer. I felt even weirder, to be honest, because the intangible was coming back. And I did a workshop here, I did a workshop there. I became way more present. But what it actually needed was a conversation with a good friend of mine during the first year of the pandemic, when she said, have you ever thought about being a medium? Because what you say or what you prognose is often very on spot. And I felt very humbled. I felt very seen. And I was like, yeah, I would love that. Not sure if this is correct. And then I reached out to Mediumship Academy and had my first call, asking the owner if she thinks that I have those abilities. And she looked at me and she was like, what? You didn't get it? And then she was really, really confused and was just like, I got to talk to your spirit guide now. And then she was just saying, you simply didn't get it. You've been doing it all the time while you were singing, while you were expressing music or lyrics, but you didn't get it that you were already building and crafting your channel. And that was such a relief, you know?
Wow, I love that story. There are a couple things I want to touch on. One, how we have been taught that mediumship, being a psychic, they are, again, things that we have to conceptualize in a very specific way and place in certain boxes. And so if our connection to those gifts or to our intuition looks different, it is wrong, or it's not good enough, or we can't trust it. And so it's really understanding that everyone's connection to everyone is intuitive. Everyone has these gifts in different ways. And maybe not everyone's meant to be a medium or be a psychic, but we all need to learn how that connection and that relationship shows up for us and really nurture that. And so I love that your story shows that there are different paths to what that can look like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, this brings me to my point of experimenting, because I don't think that we have explored all types of mediumship yet. How we can combine this, how we can create, how we can facilitate and serve. I feel like there is so much knowledge to be rediscovered, to be reinvented or invented, to be channeled. And it's what you said, that we have this special idea how a person shall be looking or showing themselves when they say they are a channel. And I want to remind us that systematically, for a very, very long time in history, especially in Europe and in Germany, this person could only be a cis white man who was serving God under Catholic religion. And this is imprinted. And even though we think, oh, we're so enlightened, like this is an old story, our subconsciousness tells us different, and makes us realize that we're still following some ideas of oppression and dismantling from our intuitive and authentic creativity, strength, and intuition.
It can be hard for us to admit to ourselves the truth that we all are impacted by these old paradigms.
Totally.
All have these subconscious beliefs that it takes effort to rewire. You know, I can catch myself thinking a thought or believing something or judging something and being like, why do I believe that? That's not actually what I believe. So why is that coming up for me? And realizing that it's because it's been ingrained in our world for so long. So I think that is such an important point. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on that you brought up before is the power of our voice and the magic held in our voice and how empowering it is to reconnect to it, whether that's through singing or through talking. And that's been a part of my story. Actually, I felt very disconnected from my voice for a very long time. And when I started to reconnect to it, even starting this podcast was a huge part of that, and use my voice to share what I thought and to connect to my intuition and to watch how, if I just let the words come out, messages came through that I didn't know were there. And I would love to hear you talk more about the power of the voice and how empowering it is and important it is to reconnect to it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And so amazing that you share your voice through a microphone with the world. What a path with what you're saying. So I'm very happy you chose to say yes to your voice and to your expression. We're at a time right now where I feel like we need to use all we have for justice and liberation. And a voice has been given to most of the people in this world. And a lot of the people, a lot of us people have the privilege to express themselves freely. And we shall be doing it in order to liberate the ones who cannot speak up for themselves, maybe due to external oppression, but also internal oppression. And when it comes to internal oppression, I want to emphasize that the voice is such a clear essence of your being. Your sound is so unique. And I also want to share the fact that the voice and the womb are connected. And they're like partner organs, and there are drawings from the throat and from the womb space. And please look at it, because then you see with the lips and with the larynx, it's very, very similar. Also the idea or the reality that we have a room of resonance in our womb can invite you thinking about how much do I use this room in my expression, when we all know that women especially have been taught to sound a certain way, having that little voice maybe up there and being only speaking soft, and perhaps not using this full spectrum of low end, as the musician in me would say. And the low end to me is like the womb space, the resonance from the womb space, where we all know that there is ancestral wisdom, the mysticism, all femininity stored. To me, it makes so much sense to reconnect those two organs to a very natural energy channel, and starting expressing all what is stored in there. And I can speak out of experience from myself and from people that I am supporting on this journey. There's so much wisdom, so many stories that want to be shared through these chambers. And when we look into our world, it's been again the cis white men who has been speaking for their privilege, and white women following this idea. But we need to hear all voices in all their diversity in order to create a better future, where we all are heard and where we all dare to express our sounds without being ordered or being brushed down.
Wow. I did not know about that connection between the womb and the throat. And it made me think about how society tries to control our womb and
Yeah.
our fertility and make decisions for us. And same with our voice. It tries, especially with women, tries to control how we talk, what we talk about. And like you were saying, with keeping ourselves quiet and small, and the fact that our wombs create life and are such a portal for magic and creation, and so are our throats.
Yes.
I mean, in human design, the throat chakra is known as the manifestation center, because what we speak into existence is what we bring into our life. I'm definitely going to be processing and reflecting on that connection between the womb and the throat.
Yes. There is an amazing book that I would love to share with you and the audience. It's called Voice, Vulva, Vagus Nerve by Debs DeVry. I will send you the link It's a very thin book compared to the wisdom that she's sharing.
Mm.
I feel like this brings some edge into the why we should be doing it. Again, it's about experimenting. What happens when women decide to connect their throat womb center again, like it was maybe many, many, many centuries ago, and start creating sound from there? And then it's not only about the words, that they don't have to be intellectual, but the honesty in sound. A sound can shift the whole energy in a room. A sound can touch your bones, and this is incredible what a sound can facilitate, what kind of emotions a sound can bring up or maybe hold at the same time. So I want to encourage everyone in looking into this book.
I definitely want to look into that book. And I do think that there is such a distinguishing factor between sound and words. And while I am a writer and I'm a lover of words, sound holds its own distinct power. Like you were saying, there's a resonance there, and there's such an impact with what sounds you are making. You can say something one way, and I'm even thinking about my dog. He doesn't know what I'm saying. It's how I'm saying it to him. And so
Yeah,
it's the energy behind it.
yeah.
And that is one reason why sound and singing, sound healing is so deeply healing and impacts our body on a cellular level.
Totally. As you were speaking, something that Maya Angelou said came into my mind. And it's something along the way that words are great, but it takes the human voice to infuse them with meaning. And I think this is so true. And it also reminds me, how do we cast a spell? Okay, it's about the words, but it's also about the intention. And it is about the sound. It's also about the rhythm that you're bringing in. And I think that's interesting when people want to again experiment with how the spells are sitting. Maybe shuffle the rhythm a little bit, or bring in another melody and see what happens.
Yeah, because words are just lifeless. They're just made up creations. They're just man-made.
Yes.
Without the energy and the intention behind it, they're lifeless.
Yeah.
Just like with so many things, it's not about necessarily what you're doing or what you're saying. It's how you're saying it and why. And so having that energy, that intention, that sound behind it is what makes the word so powerful. So how do you incorporate sound healing into your life, into your work, maybe even into your day to day? How is it a part of your life and your magic practice?
Well, I have my own vocal cleansing technique to wake up my voice and to cleanse it from, as I lovingly call it, dirt that is sitting on vocal cords, which is super normal for every human being, but it's simply so powerful to do those little exercises. I don't know, while I'm cooking my first tea in the morning, to just cleanse what's stuck there overnight, and also cleanse my sinuses every now and then, to also feel my room coming up. And when I work with clients, it's so interesting because for a very, very long time, I thought I need to sing when facilitating something, or I need to use my sound bowls, but it's really the frequency in the voice. And I also want to encourage everyone listening. You don't have to be a singer to realize your voice is medicine. Your voice is medicine. And the less pressure you put into the performance, the more authentic it can flow, and maybe the more easeful it is for you and your surroundings. I always encourage my students to be playful with the voice and allow to surrender. And that's something I experience very often when for example, I'm in a healing circle that I facilitate for people. Sometimes I'm called to sing, but it's not the singing as I would do in a studio or on stage. It is really opening up the throat and letting energy flow through. And that sounds differently to when I would choose the melody or the sounds. And sometimes it sounds nasty. My mind also comes in and it's just like, are we are we really doing this? Like, I'm a singer. I could do it better, but it's not about the idea doing it better. And that's where our mind comes in, and where I also have to remind myself, who's the one who's saying a voice needs to sound like this? These are the notes we have to follow. This is me being conditioned from years in a studio listening to men and what they want to hear out of my voice, and this wording with shaping a diamond. I guess there's an expression in English too, but in Germany it's like, oh, I heard that too often from men, wanting to shape my voice like a diamond. So it sounds perfectly for whatever they think will sound good.
I believe that all of us women have to take on the responsibility of no longer, I mean, we don't have to, but I think it's really important for us to start to carve the path of authenticity and no longer doing things to show up in a certain way or because we've been told that that's how we'll be successful or how people
Yes,
will like us,
yes.
and needing things to look or sound pretty and letting it be raw and messy and authentic and real, and really questioning what our, I guess in some ways, what our beauty standards are.
Totally.
Has that felt like a big part of connecting to your psychic gifts as well, is questioning those rules for yourself?
Absolutely. For a very long time in my life, I was dedicating my all to music. And I had this dream of becoming a singer, a rock star to be specific. And I was living the dream. I was living the dream at some point in my life. But all that you hear about the music industry is true. There are many men dictating how things should sound, should look. And I mentioned it before, I come from a small town with 500 inhabitants. There was no internet, and due to who I am, I also am a little naive and believe the things that people tell me are out of, oh yeah, this is just how I grew up with. And then following narratives or ideas in how one can position yourself, aka sell yourself, aka make money out of your creation, is also coated in sugar.
Mm.
I also had this experience of someone telling me I should go and fix my teeth, for example, in order to be more presentable. And but not every man was so straight with telling these things. And I spoke before about my depression that I experienced, and it had a lot to do with losing the ability to feel myself in my body, but also with my intuition. And that was because I was so confused. What do I embrace? What do I want to include? Which tip is a great tip and which tip is just leading into a potential sale or not sale? And it took me a long while in uncovering those things. And then again, the pandemic also gave me the great opportunity in really confronting those beliefs systems. I mean, speaking about how do we look, in the pandemic, I did an experiment of not shaving any of my hair that my body produces. And I was bullied in school due to facial hair. So I was just like, it's gonna be me and my apartment. I wanna feel how it feels to see the hair my body produces and not ripping it off, and deciding new what is okay, what do I want to embrace, when do I want to embrace what, and which price do I maybe want to pay for removing the hair on my legs. It's gonna be, I don't know how you call it, razor things that, you know what I mean. So yes, to your question, I extensively did that and decided to let go of many maybe artificial things like hair dye or nail polish, to say yes to, I want to experience myself in this way. And then I redecide, do I want to use it? Do I don't want to use it? What is me feeling about this? Becoming bare first.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's so interesting. I also had a period of my life where I didn't shave at all, and it was 3 years actually. And it started before the pandemic and then continued on into the pandemic. It actually happened shortly after I broke up with an ex-boyfriend and I was living in Hawaii and I was like, I just don't feel like shaving my legs. I just don't want to.
Yeah.
And then we were in the pandemic and again it was like there's no point. Well, who am I doing this for? Why am I doing
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And it gave me the opportunity to question that and to also challenge myself to go out in the world and
Mm-hmm.
see if people noticed and see if people said
Mm-hmm.
anything and if they judged and if they reacted and what that brought up in me. And
Mm-hmm.
it was really helpful for me to be like, I don't care what people think.
Yeah.
And then I had a moment, it was actually on some solar eclipse. I had this moment where I really felt like I needed to shed a layer of myself and intuitively and felt pulled to shave my legs and to do that for myself because I
Mm.
wanted to.
Yeah.
But it was a helpful practice of questioning the norm and
Yes.
choosing for myself what felt right.
So amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
And I also want to touch on what you were saying about your depression, because
Mm-hmm.
mental health is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart and something I really think is so important to talk about. And you said something about your depression was largely centered around losing your ability to feel yourself. And I do feel like a lot of our mental health problems in our society stem around us trying to fit into the boxes that society
Mm-hmm.
tells us to be in. And because of that, we lose ourselves.
Yes.
And we develop depression, we develop anxiety, panic attacks, whatever it may be for you. And then when we have the ability to reconnect to who we truly are and reclaim that, we strengthen our mental health.
Yes.
And I really believe that if we all were able to live authentically and connected to ourselves and to know ourselves and to trust ourselves and love ourselves, we wouldn't have the same mental health epidemic that we're having right now.
Absolutely.
And what was that process like for you of working through your depression and strengthening your mental health? And where do you feel like you're at with it right now?
It was a long process. I needed a lot of sleep. I needed a lot of support from my back then boyfriend, who I'm so grateful for, that he was this rock in providing a support and safety for me. And there were many, many, many things needed. What was very important to me back then was going into creation and finding my own voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because also it had something to do with maybe the catalyst for this was an experience with a person I was musically working with who I needed to separate from. And there was this belief system: without this person, I cannot do anything. That was a wording that he gave to me. And again, I had a tendency to believe the things that I was saying. Now I know I'm neurodivergent, so I've been open to these things a little bit more open. However, what I did was going into creation and writing music to prove myself that I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But what I now know, looking back, it was also a healing experience of using my voice and not being interrupted take after take by anyone giving me advice or giving me interruption. And it was a long process, and I found a practitioner helping me who made me aware of my gut that needed support. So my depression also has to do with a chronic illness with which I was born with, but this chronic illness shows on the skin. And people say, oh, just use cortisone. I don't know what it is in English, very crazy cream, or just go on vacation. It's not seen as an holistic, so that there are no established treatments, at least not in Germany, even not in 2025. I received support with my digestion, which was essentially, and then at some point when it got better, but not 100%, and then I got introduced to Reiki and energy healing, and that was very pleasant. My nervous system was coming down. I was starting also experiencing visual sensations with closed eyes. That was what I'm saying, you know, my sensitivity came back, my senses came back, the intangible came back. And then I came to Berlin. I moved to Berlin and decided that I needed to learn this energy modality to sustain myself and calm myself. And this has been with me with a nutrition plan. Then a couple of years got enhanced by Ayurvedic medicine. I'm consciously always saying yes to support from practitioners from Ayurvedic medicine, from breath work. Really have my how do you say that? My people supporting me so I can be healthy and fit as my body craves it. It needs that kind of support and awareness. I need my cleanses. I just need support with my body. And at the same time, I realized that the yes to myself and taking responsibility to myself through digestion, but also finding a lifestyle that suits my needs a little bit better. I mentioned I'm neurodivergent, so you can imagine touring is not, it's not a good place for me. There is no structure and I need structure. And I mentioned it earlier that every day I'm meditating in the morning with my group of mediums. And this is what I also need. I'm like high maintenance, but I'm feeling good, you know.
There's so many things you just said. One, the fact that we are physical and energetic beings. We can't separate what's happening in or on our body from what's happening emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It's all connected. And so to be fully, truly healthy, we need to support ourselves on all levels. And so it sounds like your path to healing was very interwoven through all the different
Yes.
systems of your
Yeah.
body and
Yeah.
many different modalities.
Yes. Yes. And I encourage everyone to experiment and just try a modality where you have a good feeling. And you know, even though I tried a lot, there's still modalities I haven't tried, and then I'm looking forward to trying it. You know, even you heard me speaking about digestion, but half a year ago I had my first colon hydrocolon, you know, and which is also an ancient method that people in Rome used to use to cleanse their bodies naturally. And I mentioned before, I'm doing my regular detoxes whenever the big seasons are shifting. Still, this was my first one, and now I had a whole set of these treatments, and this has impact. And it feels so great that the body, you know, our vessel, when the body is treated nicely, when you value and worship your body, a lot changes. Even though sometimes I have to admit, I'm so annoyed about my body and the attention it craves and needs in order to sustain or help me sustaining my vibe, my mindset, the experience in life that I want to have.
I think that it can be very easy for people who are very spiritually inclined to want to focus on that world and to disconnect from their body. I'm not saying I don't want to project this experience onto you, but when you're saying that it can be, you feel like it's high maintenance or it can be frustrating to have to pay attention to your body, it sounds like that isn't as natural an inclination for you as focusing on the spiritual. Do you feel like that's true?
Yes, and I love that you're saying this because we all know that due to trauma, we have a tendency to disconnect from our bodies. I feel like this is an absolute fact. And who is without trauma should throw the first stone. Like, I mean, it's not me, and unfortunately, maybe not one of the listeners right now. So that is a fact. And with my tendencies, with the dreaminess I had as a kid or the sensitivity, it was always easy to connect with the universe, for example, or the intangible, invisible, and be in my own world, as people would say, and not coming into my body because there's constant inflammation with chronic illness and it just doesn't feel nice.
Mm-hmm.
So it has been easier to me to channel, to go into channeling rather than grounding. And that was when I joined the Mediumship Academy a couple of years ago. My big task was grounding, 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 grounding. And it felt so boring and so unnecessary. Like, why do I need to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And it was so abstract to me. What's the benefit of grounding? And now I realize that there is so much strength and so much Haltung, as we would say in German. This is the modern attitude, what you stand for. I feel like this is what you can cultivate if you work on your grounding and you participate in our world different. You're not affected by something and then you drift away into the love and light. You want to be part of it and you want to hold your stand, I think it is how you call it, and you want to show up. And it's too easy to go into the love and light. It's tempting, but who wins? You for a short period of time, and then you come back. You perhaps have a hangover like one could have after another experience and, of a substance or whatever. So what you say is absolutely correct and is part of my story. And again, I'm repeating myself. It might be uncomfortable to come back into your body and root into your system, connect with Mother Earth. But this is where the true strength is. And it also will have an effect on your voice. Your voice will sound differently. And you can listen to my old records and listen to the new one, to the cycle. There is a huge difference in my vocal performance and my sound.
Wow, wow. Yeah, because you've integrated another part of you. You've come into
Yes,
yourself more. And
absolutely.
this is something I'm really passionate about, being in the spiritual world for a long time in the ways that I have. And I have seen so many people disconnect from their
Yeah.
bodies and disconnect from earth in a lot of
Mm.
ways and get lost in the air and the love and light. And in order to fully show up for this life in the way we're meant to and be on this world, we need to be grounded. We need to be in our bodies. We need to be connected. And that's also how we can be fully present and really make change and
Yeah.
have the impact on the world that we're meant to. So I'm really glad that you shared that part of your story, because I think especially, like you said, with the way our world is, we all have some layer of trauma, some flavor of it worked in there. And our go-to is to numb, distract, disconnect in some way. And that will look different for everyone. And it can take a lot of effort and intention to bring ourselves back to our
Yeah.
bodies, to the present moment, to ourselves. And at the same time, even though it is so challenging, it is the most important thing that we should prioritize every single day.
Yes.
And I love how you were saying that you love using your intuition to guide you to the right support that you need. Because again, it can be overwhelming to have all these different doctors and practitioners guiding us and supporting us and to get kind of inundated by other people's voices. But outside support can be so vital,
Mm.
especially when you are a healer in and of yourself, but using your intuition to guide you towards what support is right and what practitioner to work with, and really trusting yourself as you lean on others as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So, how do you support others? What is your practice with working with others, and what do you love about it?
I support mostly women or people that identify as a female
Mm.
in reconnecting with their authentic voice through a mentorship program called The Gift of Your Voice, where we use vocal cleansing,
Mm.
my spiritual guidance, my mediumship consultation, and the awareness of sound, how sound feels in your body, especially when it's connected to the womb and to your feminine energy. So people meet with me in a one-on-one setting where I very safely guide them through a whole framework of coming closer to feeling yourself, starting with your own frequency or your own breath but breath in sense of how you cleanse your voice again.
Mm.
So you feel resonance in your body that you usually have not felt before, which can be weird. And then we move deeper to the womb and are also working with the ancestors, also asking for the wisdom, but also asking to help dissolving the blocks that might be inherited, that disconnect us from our truth and from our sounds. But I also offer regular mediumship consultations where people can come with any kind of questions, and we meet for 45 minutes. And I'm teaching the module tarot for a mediumship academy, and I'm working for an institute facilitating medium mystic healing circles. So it's quite a lot.
Wow, I love that. I love that. And I can't resist myself from asking this question. I don't know if this is how your mediumship works or if you feel comfortable, but is there any message that you feel like you are getting right now that you feel called to share or anything coming to you that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I feel like many people are realizing that change is happening and that their old playbooks don't work anymore, that the desire to follow your own heart and voice becomes louder and louder and almost unbearable. And many people already know what they actually want to do with their time, how they want to show up. But it's sometimes the other voice that needs to express these desires. So it's a lot about reminding people that they have the power to create their life, to stand up for themselves. And what I also sense is a lot of anger, a lot of female anger that's
Mm.
coming up, wanting to be expressed, speaking for yourself, standing up for yourself, and feeling safe in an environment, maybe at work or maybe at home. Yeah, it's really about the truth of your essence and of yourself.
And I feel like that ties into this theme that we've been touching on throughout the whole conversation of letting yourself experiment with life
Mm.
and questioning how things were done and questioning what you truly want and why you think you can't have it, questioning what you're afraid of, and allowing yourself to get curious and then to experiment and try something different and to be brave enough to do things differently and to do what
Absolutely.
you truly want to do.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And let me share a brief experience with a person I've been working with. We've been using the tarot, and the Lover's card came up, and it
Mm.
was a few sessions after each other. But this was just like, it's about love. But too soon we think that the Lover's card is connected to romantic love. And I could sense that this is not the point here. We're not talking about your next relationship.
Mm.
It's about the relation within and your twin that wants to be rediscovered and wants to be embraced and participate in the love story within yourself. So it was the whole framework surrounding love that needed to be looked at, that needed to collapse. And there is grief attached to this, because we think we know the story of love. It's when a person meets another person and then we marry, we get kids. But it's more complex, it's more beautiful, and very often it has way more to do with how deeply you can love yourself and embrace those repressed parts.
Mm.
And again, allow the fear to arise of especially those feminine parts within yourself that you don't let participate in creating your life, that you have been neglecting without even knowing it.
Mm.
And that can be an intense process, but I'm very happy to report that she made it through, and it was a new story that is unfolding now, and a new richness in how she feels and sees herself and the world.
Mm. Yeah, because like you were saying, change is scary And a lot of us are terrified of that discomfort. And we need to be able to be with that discomfort and see what's on the other side of it. And you've also brought up grief a couple of times. And I think that it's such an important topic that when we decide to change, when we decide to do things differently, when we reconnect to ourselves, reclaim our power, there is a lot of grief that comes up. Whether
Yes.
that's grief of what we're letting go of, grief of what we lost, grief of what we're discovering, it can come in different layers, but we need to allow ourselves to feel the emotion, because through the process of reconnecting to ourselves, a lot of emotion can come up, and that can throw us back into wanting to disconnect and shut down our voice, shut down our power. And we need to let the emotions come up, the grief, the anger, the fear. We need to let ourselves be in it.
Absolutely. And it comes in waves. And I mentioned that I just finished a detox, and it was also with acupuncture. And I was called to check in on my liver, where anger is also stored and grief. And there was so much grief coming up from things that I thought are okay now, but that they were not okay. And subconsciously, I was still, and most likely am still, holding on to this. So I also want to remind our human brains that it's okay if grief resurfaces. That doesn't make you a bad human, but a very alive human. Someone who can feel, allows those emotions to be looked at again and be embraced and sent with a lot of love out of the system through maybe tears or screams.
Yeah, I love that. I've had that come up in my own healing process of something resurfacing or emotion coming through again and feeling like I should be done with this. I should be over this. But I really love the connection to life as a spiral. And we're always spiraling through life. A theme can come back up again, but we're never in the same point with that relationship. And so we have to let ourselves go through the spiral of life.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, living intuitively wild means living dedicated to your true, authentic self, no matter what. How do you feel like you live intuitively wild?
I allow myself to be wrong and to doubt the things that I know. And this is a huge act of surrender, as I loved control in a very linear life. And I think it's wild to give room for life to unfold and for allowing intuition or the heart to lead into the direction you are pulled towards or to move. I also think that questioning the status quo is pretty wild. It's pretty rock and roll, actually. That's why rock and roll was founded. Yeah. The more I do my work as a medium, the more humble I get, and the more I realize I don't know it all. My mind and my brain is limited, and right now I'm a human with senses, and I can become a channel, but it keeps on being surprising and extremely humbling to what I am allowed to facilitate and be in service of. And so I realized that those playbooks that we have been called to follow to be domestic, that doesn't make sense. We all shall be wild to bring in the new, or to reconnect with the very old, to be holy again.
I love that response so much. To be truly wild, we have to break free from the rules.
Yeah.
Laura, thank you so much for this conversation. It felt really, really special. Please share with everyone where they can connect with you, work with you, all the things.
Thank you so much for having me, Rachel. It really, really is special right now in this moment. Thank you, everyone, for listening. You can find me on thecosmicdreaming.com, and I hope that there will be a link to my newsletter. It's a big invitation. Please join my newsletter. I feel like this is the new old, the old new. And if you dare to join, you will be gifted with a sound healing, which perhaps helps you integrating the conversation that we will just be having. I'm still on Instagram. You can find me at Laura Carbone. I'm looking forward to connect with everyone, and I hope you had a really nice time listening to us.
Yes, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Laura, thank you so much for being here. Just so grateful for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Intuitively Wild, the podcast. I hope it helped deepen your connection to yourself, sparked some insights, and inspired you to live intuitively wild. If you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would share it with others and leave a rating and review. And please reach out to me. I would love to connect with you. I will see you next time for more magic.